Right, it's 5:32 and I call this meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone. So we have an agenda to approve. Everybody had a chance to look at it.
Motion to approve.
Have a first,
Second.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. I was going to mention though, and I should have maybe before we approved it. John Cassidy is supposed to be presenting very soon into the agenda. We don't see him here yet, so we may bypass that, go to the next. All right, Brett, you're up with the safety minute.
All right, for a safety moment, had a little taste of it last week, actually, although we didn't end up seeing much. Tornado season's coming up March through June, so just want to remind people, it seems like for some reason, every time we have a board meeting, we get bad weather. So just want to remind everybody that when and if we need to shelter, this is not a room you'd want to be in. So right here to the left is the men's bathroom. That is a storm hardened room. And if that one gets full or for some reason we can't get in there, if you go all the way into the office to the left, the women's restroom is right there. You can't miss it. That is also a storm, or the vault room. So just a reminder, I know it's the years that I've been here, there's been 3 or 4 that were sirens ablazing and things like that. So just want to make sure, again, everyone knows our exit path, or not exit, but path to where storm rooms at. Cool moment, and we'll go into more details when we get to the agenda on the fiber, but very cool moment, I think, in my opinion, a milestone where we're at with the fiber project. So we, as you guys saw, we submitted you'll actually see some of the verbiage and stuff tonight, but we submitted a press release yesterday evening, and first place that got to see the press release was out on Facebook. So the press release is really about the partnership with SCI, and then the fact that we have submitted our 6 applications for next level, and then the ARPA funds that we have been allocated. So again, we don't celebrate our milestones and wins very often, and I thought this was a great job to the fiber team, which is Crystal, myself, Matt, and Sam, and then with your guys' approvals to move forward with where we're at right now. So thought that was a cool moment.
Sure. Thanks.
John, he walked in.
I'd say let's go for your information.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started on for your information. So if there's anyone that has any questions related to any of those topics, that would be the time. If we have to come back to this, we'll do that as well.
Check register page 21. Payment to SBS. That's not the full payment, correct? That's a portion, that's a partial.
Yeah, that's for when we signed, you have to put a certain amount down. to enable, we got that discount. So yeah, it's not the whole thing. The other thing note, I probably should have made a note on here. So our Form 7 for 23 is in there. Hey, John. So it is on your dashboard too. Steve, I was going to be ready to say here. Yep. So Form 7's out there. It'll be only on this month's for your information, but it'll be on your dashboard forever. Or not forever, but for the last 3 years, it'll be up there. So again, Form 7 is a government document that we have to submit every year. So these are unaudited financial information from 2023. So.
I do have a question on that.
Yes.
Third page. Bullet point number 1, unbilled revenue of an amount included in Part C, line 20. I go to Part C, line 20. It's not sufficient for that to be included in, if I'm reading it right.
Follow this. What page is Part C on? Oh, it's right.
Rich, balance.
T.
Have an amount on Part C, line 20 that is smaller than the amount included in the bulletin or note number 1. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, there's a reason for that because that's been asked before and I don't exactly remember why. So here's the difference. That's why it's part of the note where we do the unbilled credit or the unbilled revenue of that 32.
So there's a net
on balance sheet.
The net amount, something, it's netted somehow.
Something. I'll take an action item on it though, if that's okay, Dale.
Is Sam in the room?
No, he's not.
Okay, I don't know if this is for your information question, but I keep getting emails from someone named Ruby Green, maybe everyone else is too, about a right-of-way project they want to feature Decatur County in this magazine. I wondered if he was fishing under the name of Ruby Green.
So I've gotten the exact same email, but her name's not Ruby Green. It's Roger Red, if that tells you anything.
All right, good enough.
I think that answers your
Hence,
question,
hence.
Daisy. Yeah. All right, does anyone else have anything for your information? Hearing nothing. John, thanks for coming in this evening. Presenting to us. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can announce it. So John is our CEO from Indiana Electric Cooperative. So we always say IEC. So you hear us say IEC. Some people say, what's IEC, right? Oh, it's another acronym. So John is our fearless lead up there. He's been asking to, he's trying to make his rounds to get to meet the boards. As you guys know, we are a member of IEC. They essentially are doing their work upon our behalf. And so I thought it was great that John wanted to come down and meet with us. And John asked me, he's like, what do you guys want for kind of an agenda? And I said, honestly, I think more just an open conversation is probably better than anything. And so I asked him to maybe cover a little bit of what they're doing, but feel free to ask questions. That's why John's here. So John, welcome.
Thank you, Brett.
I'll let you go from here.
And just so you know, we do have 3 directors that are attending virtually.
Okay, great. I'll try and project my voice and appreciate the introduction, Brett. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you. It's nice to see all of you today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. I have been making rounds this year quite a bit, actually, going back to when I started, which is last March. And I would say at this point, hit most of the members. There may be 5 or 6 co-ops that I'm still working to get on their board agenda. But it's been a lot of travel and I really enjoy it. it's really important as a member organization to get out and meet the members, talk to the members, listen to the members. So we wouldn't be doing our job as a member-centric organization if we didn't do that. So thanks again for the opportunity. There's a lot going on at IEC. We've got a great board. Steve's an important member of our leadership at IEC, and we've just got a lot going on that's exciting. I was thinking I would start with what's going on in the GR and advocacy space. We've got actually the first hire that I had, which is a very important member of my leadership team, is the Vice President for Government Relations, which is Ryan Heater. And Ryan's hit the ground running, leading our government relations and advocacy efforts, both with respect to state advocacy, federal advocacy, both legislative and executive branch. It's been great. He has a really great background. He was previously the chief of staff for the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Prior to that, he had a very extensive background in state government, including, I think, 3 lieutenant governors, including the current governor when he was Governor Eric Holcomb. And then he also Ryan also worked as a staffer in the State House. So a lot of experience to bring to represent our interests. The team is doing a great job with this current session, the 24th session. They really have embraced the proactive advocacy model, which is really important. You want to be proactive. You want to have a plan. You want to have your priorities. That takes a lot of groundwork that has to be laid over the course of months, if not years, to be honest with you. I have a background in government relations and advocacy, so I know I spent 10 years as a statewide lobbyist in Ohio. I worked for our national association on the federal affairs team for 11 years, and 6 of those years I was the vice president for legislative affairs at the federal level. So I know what it means to lean heavily into the process, and there's so many different elements, but the team is doing a great job with that. When the 23 session wrapped up, they began working and doing outreach and doing the work that needed to be done throughout the summer so that we could be successful for the 24 session. There's 2 agenda bills that we've been working on that the team has actually been involved even to the point of drafting language. One has to do with certificates of public convenience and necessity at the IURC that would give co-ops an exemption for any project that's less than 10 megawatts, which is authority that munis currently have. So that legislation has cleared all the legislative steps and now is headed to the governor's desk. So we're excited about that. There's also legislation that we were involved in and instrumental in that has to do with implementation of the federal BEAD program, which provides a significant amount of money to the state of Indiana for broadband deployment. And the legislation was needed to ensure that the state statute was in alignment with federal regulations for that program. So we were, again, at the table, shaping that so that our members would have the best shot at qualifying for that really once in a lifetime type of dollar figure. We're talking about over $800 million for the state of Indiana for rural broadband deployment. So it's significant. So those are the 2 main pieces of legislation. Of course, you're always playing defense, keeping an eye out for any bad policy, but so far so good along those lines. The other thing looking forward that we really need to emphasize, our history, our heritage as a cooperative program nationally here in the state of Indiana really has been predicated on political strength. Co-ops came out of the political system, and our vitality and strength moving forward really requires us to have a strong presence. And that's why our members invest so heavily in IEC to provide that representation. And so that's a responsibility that we take very seriously. But for us to be successful at the federal level, at the State House here in Indiana, we have to have really a statewide commitment to everything that goes into being successful politically. And so one of the things we thought we'd do this year was let's just go co-op by co-op and really recommit to what are the foundational elements of some of our political strategies. And we sent around to every co-op our 2024 resolutions for political engagement. And they include things like building the grassroots at your co-op, attending the DC fly-ins, hosting your local legislators at the co-op, and then support for the political action committees. Last year, we did a kind of a rebrand of our political action committees. It used to be at the federal level, ACRE, Action Committee for Rural Electrification. And at the state level, we had the State PAC, Friends of Rural Electrification, or FOR. And so the thought was neither one of those acronyms really speak to what a co-op is all about. So at the federal level, the PAC was changed to America's Electric Cooperative PAC. And so working with our Government Relations Committee, we actually followed suit and rebranded our state federal affiliate PAC. So now it's the Indiana Electric Cooperative Federal PAC, Indiana Electric Cooperative State PAC. So we have a new look, new feel, but it's the same grassroots driven PAC. And we're hoping that we can continue to get our members believing in the Political Action Committee. What it represents is giving co-ops the ability to support candidates for office that support cooperative policies. And that's all it is all about. So submit that to you. Thanks for all your past and present support for the political actions committees. And if there's any additional information that we can provide as you're considering commitments for either this year or next, please let me know or let Ryan Heater know, our Vice President for Government Relations. So any questions on any of that I just covered with GR and advocacy?
No, other than I do. So this is one area that honestly, in the last 5 or 6 years, I watch and I, kind of keep update on what's going on, but it is one area that I am participating a lot more in as far as trying to get to some of the dinners and the things where, co-ops have, leadership at and just being involved. So I probably am more up to date with GR things than I have been. Government relations, GR too, by the way, than in the past. And I appreciate the work you guys do. But they are, you see Allie and all them running around, and they really do have a very good face in front of
Absolutely
our legislators, not only at the state but the federal too. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
And we're not known as, one side of the aisle or another. We're known as just folks that are willing to work on either side. And I think that's huge. So.
No, appreciate that. And Allie Jones, Michael Charbonneau, Ryan, Lynette Craig, they do a great job, but they're just a few people and they cover a lot of ground. What really makes a difference for them is having the support of the membership that really sets us apart from most organizations, is that statewide strength and that grassroots component. That will always be what makes co-ops politically hit above their weight. You see that at the federal level, you see that at the state level. So appreciate that, and appreciate your support of everything we do. So I'm going to jump to the building. That's okay. So Steve's on the facilities committee, so a lot of this is not news to Steve, but we've got making some great progress on our new building. Last year, the board approved the purchase of a facility, and it's in Carmel, which is just probably 5-6 miles north of our current location. The building then, the board then approved a building project that would expand on the footprint of the building, as well as provide a renovation of the existing facility to accommodate staff offices. And the thing that's so fantastic about this project, why we're so excited to move into it and to start using it, is that we have not only a large multi-purpose room that will also house our board meetings, but we also have multiple other multi-use spaces within this building where we can hold simultaneous meetings. So if there's a section meeting and at the same time we need to do a training, and there's another group that wants to use a conference room, we can accommodate that, which is, if you're familiar with our current setup at Keystone Crossing, we have one space, and it's fairly limited in terms of the size of the room. So there's so much space and so many opportunities now for us to accommodate, whether it's employee training, director development, director classes, section meetings, and there's so many of those. It's really exponential what we can do, and it's giving us that much more of an opportunity to achieve the strategic plan that our board has set forward for us. So we're excited about it. So the project is close to completion. The completion date is coming up, March 8th, so less than 2 weeks. The move happens on April 12th, and the last meeting that will be held at our current office, 8888 Keystone Crossing, will be March 28th. Anything that's scheduled between March 28th and May 1st will happen, but it will be an alternative space in that Keystone Crossing campus. So there are other buildings where we can have meetings, so that it'll be seamless transition. We'll be open for meetings at the new location on May 1st. And then we're going to be planning a ribbon cutting, and we're looking at the June 28th board meeting as the date for that. So again, very excited about this new future for IEC and our members. Any questions on the facility?
In my reports from IEC meetings, I think I've kept them up to date on what it is. So it's exciting that we're going to be there very soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate all the work you on it as well. And the foresight that the facilities committee with the officers, the former CEO, interim CEO, Tom Van Paris, the foresight and all the critical decisions that were made prior to me taking over in March really has laid the groundwork for success. So kudos to you, facilities committee chairman Ron Arnhold, who's a trustee with Bartholomew County REMC, our officers, former board president Randy Cleaving, really everyone involved that made this a reality, and now we're just reaping the benefits. So thank you.
The section meeting won't be at the hotel anymore.
We're definitely going to make every effort to use our facility for as many, if not all, section meetings. There may be from time to time situations where, okay, we're booked up, or this particular meeting has too many people and it's not going to accommodate it. So you need to find something offsite. But our goal is to reduce costs and have as many meetings as possible at our facility. think our board expects that, and rightly so. But I think the, like, for example, the engineer section meeting, I think that's at the Embassy Suites in Noblesville, and there's a lot of vendors. And I think that the number and the scope of all of the vendor setups, that particular meeting probably won't lend itself to our, that might be an exception to the rule.
We don't get neat stuff, the accountants. meeting.
What's that?
We don't get neat stuff like that, at the accountants. meeting.
Yeah, well, section meetings, who's the chair of the accountant section right now?
Jennings, the vice chair. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Does Deirdre work with you guys?
A lot of it, yeah.
Okay, well, talk to Deirdre, she'll come up with something. Good deal. Any other questions on the building? There's a lot of other things going on, but I'll just hit the highlights on a few things just for your awareness. The directors retreat, we had our first annual directors retreat last year. Was very successful. Got a lot of very positive reviews from the directors that participated in that. This year, it's Friday, July 26th and Saturday, July 27th. And it's at French Lick as it was last year. That really comes out of a process that has its roots in strategic plan, but it's also based on a lot of member feedback that getting the BLCs, CCDs, and getting that certification, getting to Director Gold is not easy for a lot of our directors who have 9 to 5 jobs. And so the director's retreat is another opportunity to get those courses taken care of at the same time, to giving directors an environment and a forum to get to know one another and have that networking opportunity as well. Other things that we've done to provide additional director training opportunities is having every BLC and CCD have an online option. I think that's been popular. Having the Sunday before our annual meeting, having that time to be used for BLC or CCD class. So we've got, I think, a lot of good feedback on how that's been rolled out. Plenty of opportunities for all of you to get that certification in 2 years. We offer the CCD and BLC courses on a regular rotation, so shouldn't be trying to make it as easy as possible for you to attain that achievement. We're doing some things. Of course, I think you all know Lena. She's got a lot of great ideas, and she's moving us down the track in a lot of different, very innovative approaches to providing support to communities that want to grow their leadership skills. And a couple of those opportunities are the directors chats, having that directors community, giving more networking and informal collaboration time for our directors through the directors chats. And then Lena's idea, not mine, but I've run with it and I've been enjoying it, is we're at the annual meeting and at the most recent board meeting, I've been hosting all this distribution co-op CEOs in a CEO huddle where we have an opportunity for networking, where we can get to know each other and use each other as a resource, because there's the old expression, CEO is the loneliest job. Our point is it doesn't have to be, we have each other. So when we're coming together for meetings, let's take some time, set some time aside and focus on each other, focus on some of the challenges that we face. So I don't know, Brad, I've enjoyed it. It's stretching me and giving me experiences I've never really had being a facilitator, but I like that. I like the fact that Lena and others are pushing me in that direction. I've actually gained a lot from it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, his point to, yeah, we all have leadership teams. We all have leaders within our communities, but you are right when there's things that have to be decided on. It does get lonely at the top because you ain't got anybody else that's, in that same position. So he's right. Why wouldn't we use each other? Usually if one CEO's, come across a problem, another one has. So this has really allowed us to be, more as a team and to utilize that co-op, cooperatives, learning from each other.
Well, there's a lot going on. A couple of things just to note. We've got a new Indiana Connection editor, Brett Davis, and I know how important the magazine is to Decatur, so we want to make sure that we keep that. That we continue to keep Indiana Connection as not only just a high quality, best in class publication, but also to never lose that member engagement element that comes with having this magazine. So appreciate your support of Indiana Connection. And I'm sure if you haven't already met her, you'll get to meet Brett here in the near future. So she's hit the ground running. I also, you probably saw Brett during the board meeting. If you read the packet, Steve, you probably read the packet that you're up for RESAP this year. So that's coming, but that's good. Safety is always going to be front and center for IEC and its members. And we've got a lot going on in that space, safety space, the commitment to zero contacts 2.0. I don't know if that has been, those discussions have taken place here at Decatur at this point, but a number of co-ops have, and that is an opportunity for us to really reassess our practices to ensure that we're keeping our teams, our line workers, and our employees as safe as possible, and not taking things for granted. So those are the highlights I wanted to hit.
And I always, we don't a lot of times talk about IEC as much as we probably should. Steve does bring up the monthly kind of updates from a meeting, but I do, when we talk about value of our statewide associations and things like that, it really comes down to a couple different things. We always think of you guys as like our GR guys, right? They're our lobbyists. They're the folks that are making sure that at the state house and at the federal level that, our voice is being heard. That's what you traditionally think of as our statewide. The other two important things that I think, and especially for Decatur standpoint, is these guys provide shared services or shared resources that else for us to go do on our own would be very, very expensive. And so since we are one of the smaller co-ops in the state, we probably gain more value from those shared resources than a lot of other co-ops in the state of Indiana. So that's just one, again, and it goes from job safety and training to the magazine. I mean, what we pay for the magazine, you couldn't hire a person to even write the articles, let alone publish it, right? So a lot of those shared services. And then last, I always say that they are the conduit that allows us to learn from each other. So not only from a director standpoint, but from a CEO. And then, Matt was just talking about, he involves in his section meetings, and they really are kind of that conduit that allows us all to learn and interact from each other. It doesn't have to be lonely. We're all separate businesses, but yet we can learn from each other. So those are the values and the things that I think as a local board we should be talking about.
And the IEC safety guy was here today.
Yes, he was.
Oh, yeah.
He reminded us about RESAP.
Is it
Dan is.
Dan was here.
Dan Ho?
Yep.
Yeah, so Dan leads our regulatory compliance team. Good deal.
Our safety meeting is tomorrow morning, and he said he'll be here for it. So it's good.
That is great. Well, I'm sure you get multiple touches from IEC people during the course of a month and
A week
a week.
or day sometimes.
Yeah. So that's music to my ears, and we wouldn't be able to be successful if we didn't have we weren't coming to your doorstep. And a lot of the things that we're doing are increasingly to your doorstep.
Yep.
There's a new, just throwing one out, a new feature. It's fee for service HR to your doorstep. That is a new kind of innovation that where our HR expertise can then be shared with, talking about shared services, we can bring our HR expertise to your organization, and things like talent management, performance management, assessments, career pathing, succession planning, position descriptions, the list goes on. And so it's tailored. It's what you need when you need it. It's not. So it's meant to be very tailored and as needed. Again, emphasize the fee for service component, but that's being led by Deb Hunter, who does HR for IEC. So she's kind of a one-woman shop when it comes to IEC's needs, but then she is growing in this role, and it's kind of a neat thing, and it's really taken off. I know Russ Shelby is really taking advantage of it, this new service offering. So we're doing those types of things to make it so that we can make it as convenient and easy as possible for our members.
Anybody got any other questions or anyone else?
Well, thank you. Really enjoyed it. This means I can hit the road, right? You don't need me to stay.
Unless you want to.
No,
I think we know that answer.
no, thank you so much. Is everyone going? How many people are going to the annual meeting? NRECA Power Exchange?
Oh, so there's 1, 2, 3 directors. 3.
3, okay. Right. So we'll have, we're co-hosting the Continental Breakfast in the morning for those 3 days with Hoosier and Wabash. So I'm sure we'll be, for those of you who are going to Power Exchange, I'll see you at those breakfasts, and maybe I'll see you in the hallway.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
To answer your question earlier, Dale.
Sorry?
To answer your question earlier on Form 7.
Yes.
The number on Form 7 is net of the accounts, doubtful accounts, allowance, and the prepaids. So they show up as a negative.
Gotcha. So it's included in the calculation. They arrive at that number.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the negative offsets
Okay.
the big number.
Yeah.
I got it. Is that,
Our accountants.
I knew there was an answer. I just wasn't sure of it.
All right, so we'll continue on, and unless we have anything else for your information, we'll head on to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the previous meeting minutes, which includes the January board meeting along with the executive session minutes.
I'd like to address the claim hearing, wanting to leave the board and going from 8 to 7 on the board. Can we have a study on whether or not we should go to not just 7, but let's go with 4 districts and 3 at large? That would might help trying to find people that want to even be on the nominating committee. Something of that sort. You look at that?
So specifically, you're wanting to discuss options, maybe? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, options. And we don't have to do it this meeting. We do, let's get ready for the next.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have in the minutes, though, supports what we had in the bylaws to support the restructuring, right, of the districts.
So as we do this.
We do have that memo that we can,
Yeah, we have.
we did do a study on this, Carl, originally when we talked about it.
Yeah, what is the most?
Aaron did it, but I can't remember what month that was. I think it was June of last year. I'll look.
So I think regardless of the minutes, we can certainly talk about that. We can
we put that on the next meeting, the agenda then to discuss.
Well, I think it's something we need to be working on pretty feverishly, coming up with, making certain those changes do get applied as Clay made his announcement last month. So,
See, I've never gotten an answer who does the redistricting and stuff. Who do we get to do that? Do you?
So what we'll-
Take the population from here and here and here and I mean, we spread it out.
yeah.
So that's basically what it amounts to.
This happened one other time when I was on the board, and that's in essence what took place. We went from 9 directors to 8.
Right.
And I think there was just,
Well, with the past of what's going on, especially with Dale was saying, can't find somebody down there as a nominating committee person like that. Would it be more feasible to just have 4 districts and 3 at large so that you can get some other people involved? I mean, instead of say there's 2 people in one district who want to be on the board, it can happen. Or, I mean, if there's 4, I mean, as far as representing districts, I've been contacted by multiple peoples in everybody's district. So, and talk to everybody. So,
maybe if you're good with it, we have a placeholder when we talk about the nominating committee members later on in the agenda. Maybe we can kind of connect those.
if we're looking at changing the districts, I mean, this might be a better option for having people that want to be on the board or get on the board, finding people. Even me trying to find a nominating committee, I went through calls.
But if you're good with that, maybe we can kind of interject some things there during that time in the agenda on.
It might just be another option.
And I can find that. We have like a 5-page memo on, because you guys looked at that or just this thing.
Oh, okay.
But we did look at, I think the pushback or the thought process, the negatives of having the at-large were, do you really get, do you really, is it too big then? It was the thought process. In other words, if you only have 4 and then 3 at large, you have 1 director covering a bigger chunk of people. That was the con to it. The pro to it is going to be exactly what you say, right?
And I'm thinking that oversees calling a chunk of people because, yeah, I talk to people in Suzanne's, I talk to everybody's district. I talk to the whole county.
Yeah.
People call me up all the time and I was, where you at?
Another good piece of information we could pull is there are governance best practices out there for that talk about how to district. I don't know. We could pull that and see what it says too.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
The RECA governance best practice document. We can pull that.
Can I
So
ask
for
a
next
question?
month.
Sure.
What kind of
Go ahead,
time frame are we? We're already almost to March 1st for that, question mark. I mean, I'm just wondering how close are we with Clay we're looking at 3 months away to the annual election. I didn't know what the timeline was. We had to have that defined by.
Well, I think the goal would be to try to have that complete, even prior to the annual meeting date. Because I mean, as was stated in the bylaws, once there was a director that retired or something occurred, then we would start working on, redistricting. So, I know based upon what we talked about last month, it was a fairly clean cut though with this particular district. And, the nominating committee was on the same voting schedule.
I'm just throwing that idea out there because it's getting harder and harder to find people.
Well, as I said, maybe we can talk a little bit more when we get into nominating committee members there. So right now, we're looking at approving the minutes of the 2 previous or executive session and the January meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? And you're approving both, correct, Jason?
You are correct.
Okay, so it's a motion to approve both those. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the
Aye.
same. Thank you. All right, those are approved. Next item on the agenda is your CEO update.
All right, so to go through some project updates as far as where we're at. So the fiber project, we're going to be talking about that as a, oh, can't even see my screen. Apologize. So fiber projects one, we've got quite a few updates there, but we got a line item that will actually go through those. Kaizen event. So as you can see here in the corner, we had our Kaizen event. We actually is a 3-day, or we spent 2 days on actually laying it out and then another day trying to sort out what we're going to do. So that's an ongoing project. Felt like it was very, very successful. As you can see, that's typically not how you would want a project to look. It's pretty squirrely. So good news is we were able to lay it out. We got all the right people involved, and we'll be working on fixing that. The idea is, and the timeline is we want to have what that should look like, or what we want it to look like in the future, done before we actually implement what we call work management, which was in the budget. It's basically an NISC product that'll allow us to do our work orders and service orders through the system instead of pushing a bunch of papers around and things like that. So there's a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of bottlenecks in that process. So we're trying to get those fixed, and then we'll get that implemented into our work management system. Again, all this is around is efficiencies. And hopefully it will allow us also to serve our members better with not having things fall through cracks and stuff like that. So next, organizational openings. So as you guys saw, we did, Crystal Greathouse was named as our manager of basically member services and communication. Abby Asher is named our marketing and communication specialist. So what's still open is a billing specialist, which I think we ended up receiving about 140 resumes before we shut it off. And we've got that whittled down to about, Crystal has that whittled down to about a reasonable number. I don't remember the exact number. So we'll be doing on-site interviews for that. So that's still open. The operation manager, we had around 40. If you scrub that down, we are phone interviewing about 8 of those. And then once we whittle that down, we'll do on-site interviews. Probably still a month out on that one. Crystal's probably within a couple, 2 to 3 weeks on hers. Company project list. So as you guys all seen on our iPads, the 2024 project list is developed. The only thing we don't have in there is there's TBDs for the operation managers roles as far as projects that we're wanting to do this year. So I would like, Steve, for you all to approve that, whether it's this month or next month. I don't know that it really matters, but that's consistently what we've done every year, is to approve, hey, these are the projects that we're moving forward with. These are the top focus areas for 2024. Culture transformation and company vision. So we are set for our what we're going to call our culture reset date, which is April 2nd. So we'll be rolling out, we got actually a speaker coming in. We're going to be rolling out sort of what our new vision kind of looks like, and just culture improvements that we're trying to make. This is all work based upon our employee surveys. You know, we've done employee surveys now for 7 years, and we're trying to make incremental improvements to our overall scores and our overall culture. So this is a project specifically around that. So April the 2nd, I believe, is the date that we'll actually be implementing that. Any questions on projects or any of the strategic stuff that we've been working on?
Question on my iPad, can I get it to print something off.
Did Sam ever get back to you on that?
We've been
We're having issues with call to order on that.
saying it's whoever it is.
Easiest thing to do, Carl, is just hit the send, forward it to an email and then print it from there. That's the roundabout easiest way to do it instead of trying to print from the iPad. Yeah, call to order works really, really nicely, but it has its glitches too. And that's one of them is sometimes it's really hard to get stuff printed from it. If you have anything, Carl, and you're in town and you want it printed, just call us. Somebody can print it for you. Any other questions on any of the strategic project updates? Anybody on the phone?
We're good.
All right. So now I'm gonna go over the metrics. So you're gonna hear kind of the same story from me as you're gonna hear from Matt because it all relates to weather. So we're gonna go back to January. And if you look at our median temperature in January, we're 11.8% cooler than our 5-year average. So it doesn't look like much on a chart, but when you talk about 11% cooler than what our 5-year average is, that's a bunch, right? And that was all in what, 2 weeks
Right.
time frame essentially?
Bus days where to get above
11
freezing.
So that's going to be a very common theme through my stuff and through financials here. So you can see it show up on the heating degree days. It's well above where our average is at. Doesn't look too much above on a graph like this, but it makes a big difference. So this is purchased energy, and this is just January. So the different colors represent, the different years. So you can start at 2020 on the very left with the orange, and you end up in 2024 with the red. So we ended up about 2.2%. We purchased more kWh from Hoosier to the tune of 2.2% more than our 5-year average. So that's a pretty significant change in kWh. But even more importantly, if you look at our demand, so the dot there above the yellow and blue, that's our 5-year average. Again, 2020 is on the very left-hand side, 2024 is on the very right-hand side. This is demand. So our demand was almost 2% higher than our 5-year average. So both, not only just kWh and energy, but our demand was actually higher for the month of January. And again, really just being driven from two cold weeks in that month. So then if you look at kWh across, again, cooler weather tends to hit residential sales more than anything else. And you see that here, right? So we were 21.5% above budget in residential. Commercial 10%, industrials we were down 4.2%, and transmission about 3.5%. So if you take all of those classes, roll them up to one, you can see we're about 8.46%, so roughly 9% above where our budget had us at for sales. So then we're going to move on to a few charts that we always kind of put into our things, but we don't talk about a whole lot. I know these are really hard to read, but in general, if you look at the top left, that's our gross margin. So gross margin is essentially revenue minus what our power costs from Hoosier Energy. So it's essentially what margin do we have to operate the business with. The blue mark is our actuals. The red mark is what was budgeted. So you can see our power costs were up, our revenue was up due to those cold weeks, and it left us with a gross margin about 80K over our BU. So we picked up 80K on the top left in our margin. Then if you look on the top right, that is our controllable expenses, and we're around 40K under our expenses per budget. Really, that's just a timing thing. It all has to do with right-of-way costs and just timing. So, but what that does is on the very, very bottom, and if you see the blue line is actually where our budget was or is, and then the green line is a cumulative of where our actual is at. So you can see our actual operating margins because of the gross margins and being under and controllable, we were actually above about 106,000, really just due to that. good place to be knowing that we can expect to roll into February and it's going to be very, very warm. So it's going to impact, it's probably going to suck this entire 100 grand in an operation margin up. In other words, it was really, really warm in February compared to our averages. So our sales and our demand are going to be way, way down. So probably a good thing to start out in January with this because we know we're rolling into warmer February. Moving on to outages. So this is our daily SAIDI. You can see the red line is what we would consider a major outage. We had one blip there that I believe was a high wind thing, but other than that, it's been pretty darn flat in January. Lost consumer hours, again, the dot, these are all January's, left being 2020, the green being 2024. You can see we're right on the 5-year average, nothing major as far as lost consumer hours. Number of outages was up a little bit. There were just quite a few events that had like single outages. So that'll drive your number of outages up, but your lost consumers to be kind of normalized. And that's what you see here. Nothing alarming. And that was basically our, how many metrics for January. I hate to say that it's boring, but I think it's a pretty boring month. Any questions from that standpoint? If not, I'm gonna roll it all over to Matt, which you're gonna pretty much hear the same thing.
Okay, Matt.
As Brent said, the biggest thing on the balance sheet and the income statement and everything is the fact that we had the 2 weeks where it's so cold that you still had to break ice off even though you had heaters and waters. We have higher liabilities on our, so here we got higher liabilities in energy, higher revenue. That's all that's showing. Same thing here, higher revenues, or I should say the last one was higher accounts receivable and higher liabilities. This here is higher revenues, higher power costs. I mean, that's pretty much the extent of the month. Everything else, it's too early to really tell where everything's going to fall. Those are the big things on this. Cash flow, down about 100,000. The biggest thing I can say from a cash flow standpoint is our order of transformers for the year came in most all of it in February. So we have a lot of money going out right now and next month to where our cash, we're going to have our margins, we're going to catch up later in the year. Probably going to have to do some short-term borrowing here soon. The right-of-way machine, I've been working with that. I've got quotes on that. We also have the demo here that I got a quote on. We're figuring out exactly which direction we're going to go probably in the next week. We'll, depending on the demo unit versus the new, we'll figure out. It's not a super easy decision. It's kind of as broad as it is long. And then we have they're doing a lot of work down at the Westport feeder exits. They're making great progress on that. So we'll be getting billed probably for that fairly soon. So we're going to have there is some bigger bills coming down the pipe sooner rather than later because things are moving faster rather than slower. So, I mean, I would say that's a good thing. Maybe not from my standpoint on that end, but on the REMC standpoint, if you're going to do something in the year, it's better to get it done early than later. Any questions? I mean, Brett pretty well gave all my financials. Sorry.
Hey,
Shows
Matt.
you how well.
this is Jason.
Yep.
On the balance sheet, you've got accounts receivable other net went from 8,000 to 305,000. What's that?
So that's probably on the, are you talking on the actual?
It's on the
Not
balance
the
sheet.
Yep.
You have the accounts receivable for the energy, but then you have another line item that just says other, and it went up quite a bit.
Let me look here real quick.
You know where he's talking about.
Yep.
Sure.
You know which one I was talking about, right?
Yep. So that is our, so the big project that's going on near Westport, that is the aid in construction that we're still waiting on.
Okay, that's a line extension.
We've sent them the bill, but we haven't received the money yet.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the real big project that we have as far as, well, it's the digester project. We've talked about it in many meetings openly, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I could say that.
You can.
Yeah. I figured that's what you were talking about. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that is. We bill them right at about the end of the month. So.
Okay, all right.
We have not started yet though on the stuff that their aid and construction goes to. What we started on was the part of the construction work plan.
Yeah, did you hear that?
So
So just that's a two-phase project.
three, actually.
Yeah, it is actually three.
Three.
The first phase that you're seeing work done out by Westport right
Actually,
now.
it's four now that I say that, because you got the feeder exits, then you got the rebuild of the double circuit, and then you got where it splits off both ways.
Yeah.
So what they're working on is the feeder exits, right? Feeder exits in the double circuit, which were in the work plan 3 years ago.
Yep.
And then we waited because we heard this might be coming, so we knew exactly what we had to do.
Exactly.
So instead of doing it twice, we waited and did it once.
Okay.
All right, anyone else have any additional questions? Thanks, Matt. All right, go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Hoosier Energy Annual Meeting Delegate. I don't know who's all going. I know that I think Dale and Steve and myself are planning to attend. Everybody else?
Yeah.
You're planning on going as well?
Practically. Yeah.
So Brian's going to be going as well. So I've been the delegate the past couple of years, so I'm fine with someone else doing it.
We need to vote on it.
Yeah, we need to nominate.
Main nomination.
Let's nominate someone and
You're so inclined.
Sorry.
Make the nomination then. Let him be the-
Yeah, that's what I said. If Steve's so inclined, I'm gonna, if he'd rather.
I just nominated somebody else.
Oh, I thought you said, okay.
No.
Sorry.
It's between you and you and you.
Oh, okay.
So are you? Are you nominating somebody?
You do it, Steve?
Yes, Brian.
What is it I have to do? Oh, somebody just did Brian.
But I didn't hear that. What does it entail?
Yeah, what does it entail?
Basically standing up and making a statement of who our Hoosier director is.
Basically like I did at IEC for you.
That's correct. Something very similar.
So you've already practiced, Steve, is that?
I've already practiced, yeah, so that's fine. Yeah, I nominate Steve.
Okay, we have a first,
I'll second.
second. Any other nominations? So the nomination is for Steve Nobby to be the Hoosier delegate. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, Steve. Next, I don't know if we need an alternate though. We didn't try for an alternate. You're gonna be there, so we're good.
You guys will be too, you're right.
Yeah, but if your name's on it, you're the one that would have to do it. I think the next item, it's not it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the actual.
Okay, so we need to actually nominate a Hoosier director, and Jason is currently in that role. Jason, you'd really like to continue in that role, correct?
Yes, I would.
I nominate Jason. I second that.
We have a first and a second. Any other nominations? All in favor of Jason being the Hoosier Director, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same?
Aye.
All right. Jason, you're the Hoosier Director then. Thank you.
None of those were against, right? They were all full.
That's okay. It's okay with the other side. Brett, then the next item is the Community Trust Report.
So
They meet last night?
they met last night. I think everyone on here has been notified. So if you have any questions openly, you can ask, even though I may not have an answer. But if you redo or refresh, we did add that on this morning because they had the meeting last night. Again, that's the list of folks that were granted money, and it sounded like it went really, really well.
Anybody have any questions regarding the Community Trust? All right, we'll head to the next few items. We have some policy reviews there. The first one is 10-06.
So I can actually talk about all three
Yeah,
of these because it's pretty easy. So as you guys know, we try to make it through all of our policies in a timely manner. So these we have a software that basically pings us and says you need to review this. So these four all came up for review. None of these have any suggested or recommended changes from myself or my leadership team. They're all literally just, we reviewed them and we didn't see any changes and we wanted you guys to do the same thing. So I don't even know that you really need to vote other than acknowledge that you've reviewed these.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll do. We'll
Because there's no changes.
and there's, other than that, we would get the version, looks like that.
Version changed and the date
Changed, so.
for review.
So unless anyone sees anything differently, I'll need a motion to go ahead and approve the review and the version change of those policies. And we'll do them collectively, all four of them at the same time.
I'll make the motion, Steve.
Okay,
Second.
we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor to approve the review and change of these four policies, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Good. It's unanimous. All right, Brett, I think you're gonna discuss a little bit about the solar eclipse.
Yeah, so honestly, when Steve and I talked, I thought we'd be a little bit farther along and be able to say, here's kind of our plan, but we'll probably put this on for next month too. So all I'll say right now is I've been involved with Brad Spear, who's our local, I don't even remember his title, EMA, yeah, emergency management. So, and I kind of have been involved in what the town's doing. So also at the statewide association, CEOs have been talking about what we're all doing as far as the planning for this. The risk, and we all have our own opinions on the risk of this. I get that, right? We do inside these four walls too. But the risk that people are planning on is, one, if we have an outage and our trucks can't get to places, what do you do, right? So we're on a main street here. Can you get outside of here if all of our trucks are here? So that's one risk. The second risk is cell phone service interruptions. Again, we have truck radios, but how do we make sure that phone calls make it through? How do we manage an outage if cell phones are down? So those are the two things that we're specifically trying to mitigate and think about. And there are several things that other RMCs are doing, from, shutting the doors down to working from home to placing trucks across the service territory. Because honestly, if you think about it, once you get the truck out, once we have a bucket truck that's outside of, North Gator, South Gator, these different places, we'll get guys to the trucks. And you can move trucks once you get away from those main thoroughbreds, or thoroughfares. So anyway, that's what we're working on. I'll report out as soon as we kind of put a overall plan together. I did talk to the guys a little bit about it this morning. They felt like that there's lineman employee houses that we might be able to stick these trucks in, if that's the route that we end up going. So anyways, more to come. Those are the risks that we're doing. I mean, if you read any of this stuff that's going on, they're reporting anywhere from a lot of people being in this area. Whether you believe it or not, I also don't want to be caught with our pants down. So we need to have a plan.
The big, really is people on being in the way.
Correct.
That's exactly, it ain't, it's only the last 4 minutes.
Yep. It's people.
It's just gonna be
That doesn't mean traffic's not gonna be.
people.
Well, the total eclipse is 4 minutes, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But the eclipse will last for hours, right?
They say the biggest issue is when everybody's leaving, right? Because people are going to come in over Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, right? Some people will be here. They say that, around noon is when you'll start seeing stuff, right? The issue is going to be, at 5 o'clock when everybody's trying to get out of here. That's where the issue is going to be. But no one knows, right? I mean, I think this town could take on an extra 1,000 people from outside and have no problems. There's the numbers they see. Now you get up to 6,000 to 10,000 people in this community all at once trying to leave, you may have some issues. 74, they're definitely saying there's going to be some issues. We don't need 74 to get our trucks through. So anyways, we're just trying to mitigate the major risks that are out there. I've told it, we've got people that have their own opinions about this. And I said, that's fine. Let's just have a plan, figure out what we want to do. That way there's no surprises as far as if something were to happen. So fair enough.
Are you buying everybody glasses?
No. I was hoping you would.
No.
There was actually some legal talk about the liability of purchasing glasses for either employees or students or whoever it is, that what happens if they blind themselves or something was wrong with the glasses, and now is it a liability for you? And I'm like, okay,
We're not gonna deal with that.
Oh, I do want to make one other point. So there are a couple RMCs in the state of Indiana that have been flooded with calls, believe it or not, who want their security lights disconnected. And so because of this event, there are one at least RMCs that are going to be doing, yes, we'll do it, but here's how much you got to pay. And I think the number was right around like $50, which, if you guys know, may cover the gas to get there and back. I met with Crystal and my leadership team, and we have decided we are not going to offer that at all. It's not cost effective. If we had to charge to break even, no one's going to do it because it's expensive to roll a truck. And we don't have the resource. I mean, if you get 100 of these things or something, how the hell do you? We don't have the resources to handle it. So we've made the decision that, and I don't know exactly what date, but there's going to be a certain date, blackout period, where we're not going to disconnect security lights or street lights. I will say that we already are planning on, we're going to probably have some bulbs that may have some holes in them. And so we are talking about, is there any impact there? Is there something that we need to do there from a standpoint? But we have made a decision that we will not do disconnects for security lights. So, and if you think about it, I mean, some of these people that they want to see the total darkness at their house, they got a big light, bright security light sitting right there. I mean, I get it, but it is just not cost effective to roll trucks. If we were able to have the technology where security lights can be turned off with a click of the button, it might be a little different story. To roll a truck out there is just not cost effective for the rest of the members. So anyway, if you get asked, that's what we're doing.
Okay. All right, the next item has to do with the nominating committee members, I think from Dale and Jason. Jason, have you been able to?
Yes, I have my two names.
You do have two?
Yeah. Bill Huffmeyer and Patty Fisher.
Bill Huffmeyer, Patty. And Jeannie's cleared both of those, right? Yeah, she has.
Yes, I've been talking with her this week.
And then Dale?
I'm over. I mean, to the point of, I'm probably 18 to 20 phone calls myself. Abby sent out an email blitz 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago today, to every email address within my district. Kind of just spelling it all out. It's very well written. And asking anyone who was interested to contact me, and I have not had the first contact.
Okay. I guess the question that I would have now, and we can go back and look at the bylaws, but is there anything that you're aware of, Dale, that has a backup for us in case we can't find anybody to run for the nominating committee? And I don't think we have anything in.
You know, it put us in a little bit of a precarious situation because the current member couldn't run because of the bylaws. So that, you know, he would have been, I think, more than willing to, but the bylaws prevented it.
Sure.
I mean, I'm continuing to look or ask, but you know, every time I've been through this, I've experienced, well, as a matter of fact, you found the current member last year. I don't know. And I don't know what the ramifications are of not being able to find somebody. I have said before, I personally don't see the benefit of the nominating committee, but I think I might be in that minority or in a minority in that respect.
I do think that if you guys don't end up finding somebody, you're just going to have to make a motion to deviate from I mean, if you can't find it. But you're going to need to make a motion to deviate from what the bylaws say. At some point, I'm not saying you need to do it.
Last date.
The
March.
31st, isn't it? The 31st
Yeah.
of March?
Yeah, so we got some time.
What, isn't the 26th there in their candidates?
Candidates do.
There is, but if you find it between the 31st, we'll meet with that person.
But I've got a couple more people I'm going to call, but
Right, I mean, with the way it's been going, not real.
and not to, I mean, the lack of success in this effort is somewhat consistent with the lack of interest in the annual election votes and things. I mean, it's just not that district. My district is not.
Okay.
It's just not.
Redistricting, that help him any? I mean, is there going to be other members that'll move into his?
Yeah, but
Not substantially. I mean, I think the population level will increase a little.
I mean, the only idea of when we redistrict is to try to even, because we've got some pretty, not major, but anytime you redistrict, you want to balance as much as you possibly can. So yeah, there will be some coming out of his. I don't think it's going to help you any though.
Yeah, significant. Okay, well, we'll, I guess, continue to see what we come up with, but, and then
Does the
Carl, you brought up.
bylaws-
Someone say something?
Yeah, do the bylaws say anything if a district position was just left vacant?
I don't believe so, Jason. I mean, we'll look it up here in a minute, but I think I think it says now we need to find two nominating committee, candidates. So, and to Brett's point earlier, it's like we may have to make some modifications if this becomes an unsuccessful.
I would suggest though that we all, I mean, Carl, I know sitting there, I think we all should try to help if we know anybody in that area,
Like I said.
even us from a staffing standpoint.
Right.
Remember, I didn't.
Yeah, we can all see what additional names, forward them to Dale. But Carl, based upon what you brought up a short while ago, I said we could maybe extend the conversation a little bit now if we see, if there's something else you want to mention about redistricting. You brought up that maybe we want to consider no longer 7, but some other option. And that was presented to us. Brett, I don't know if you ever found it, and I didn't either. I didn't take a lot of time to look at it. But I know when Erin visited this for us, she had come up with some options. But I if we need to discuss it, now's the time to do it, because all of a sudden we're going to need to make this change.
I'm not sure exactly how the population is in any square, make it a 4 and a 3 at large, but do the best you can, with it like that. In my opinion, districting is if you just take the county wherever your map is and just go down center of Greensburg and then cross it the other way, and
That's kind of how we do it.
let it go into 4 and then have it, at large, because in my opinion, it just doesn't seem like it matters you're representing the district, obviously, but everybody, I mean, this isn't, like you said before, it's a smaller RMC. Everybody knows pretty much everybody else. Hey, like that type of situation go around, but it's.
There hasn't been a problem getting, I think that the differentiating thing that you need to think about through here is, no one's having a problem getting directors. It's the nominating committee.
I need 2 names.
You do need to.
And I don't know that it matters in a nominate. I mean, to me, it matters a hell of a lot less. Do we have enough representation as a nominating committee than we do as directorship? Directorship, I mean, you guys were asked to do 9 if 8 didn't make sense, right? Then it was like, well, that didn't make any sense, because if you look at the statistics on other co-ops. So I'd suggest if you're going to look at redistricting, maybe you only look at like the nominating committee being different. In other words, no one's having any problem finding directors. It's the nominating committee.
But then who does this nominating committee member?
I'm just saying they don't have to align. You don't have to have the same districts you can write it in the balance however you want it.
Well, everybody on the nominating committee should be able to nominate anybody they want off any district.
They do today. And maybe that's something that, well, we haven't done that. Ask the current nominating committee to find nominating committee members. In other words, what you just said, that's why they've never had problems with finding directors to run. It's because they're all pitching in, right? I mean, Bill, I don't know Bill's in yours, and he's finding people for Dale's. There's nothing wrong with that, right? They're helping each other do it. Same thing, but I don't think you need to tie the nominating committee districts to the directors. It can be completely separate.
Of course, and that's why it's been. I mean,
But it might help you guys align that whole idea of
I understand.
1 year on, you know what I'm saying?
Well, in conjunction with going to 7 districts, I know that when Aaron made those other recommendations, it was very complicated to try to incorporate an at-large. That's how I feel. I mean, I think based upon the geography and the mapping associated with the current 8 districts, and then you remove District 8 and it's swallowed up by various other districts with a few line movements. I think I'm not saying it's an easy task, but I think it's something that's very doable. Whereas if you start working with at-large candidates as well, or districts, you have the issue with the nominating committee and how the old director, when I say the old director, the person that's been a director, where they fit in, are they at large, are they not? I think it's much more complicated is what I'm saying. And that's not to say we can't do anything, but I think the complicated fact that I don't know if we need to put this to rest or not, because we do need to go forward with it. I'd really like to hear from everyone else on your thoughts about just going down to the 7 districts versus, because I don't know, that's a conversation you wanted to start, kind of, and I think we need to kind of get through this.
About whether or not to go down to 7?
Well, no, it's already stated that we would go to 7, but the question is, do we have 4 districts and then at-large districts, or what's your thoughts? I mean,
I kind of agree with what he's talking about.
as far as the nominating
Nominating.
goes, but let's just talk the number of districts, and if they're going to be at-large candidates, we can talk about director, or if we're going to have a director for each district, as we do now.
I think we
Because-
should leave the district for directors.
Okay,
And like you guys said, we never have any problem finding people to run. And I do think you need to scatter the representation out over the territory, or make sure that it is. And finding directors is not a problem. So I think you should leave it district. And like you said, it's going to be a lot easier to get that done than starting from scratch.
yeah, okay. And Steve, is that where you were going, or when you mentioned, okay,
Yeah, kind of leaving the districts for the directors alone, and
and then maybe modify some.
modify the nominating committee so it's easier to find people for the nominating committee.
Okay. How about you, Dale?
I'm just thinking about it. I mean, Jason seems pretty adamant. I guess from my perspective, and maybe because again, I feel like in some respects I live in a vacuum down there. I don't feel as strongly as what Jason does.
Okay,
Not suggesting that that's not the appropriate way to go, nor do I have any issues with going that way. I'm not sure I know what district representation gains you. I don't know what people being in my district versus smaller districts, bigger districts makes, I don't know.
I think at this event, though, we would try to go ahead and, whether the geography is bigger or not, but the population would be fairly close to each district, yeah. Suzanne, do you have a thought?
No, I'm just concerned if we redo everything. I'm kind of jumping around conversations, but is this the first time we've had that you can recall, Steve, we haven't been able to find 2 people for the nominating committee since you've been on the board?
Oh, it's been a difficult challenge over the course of the last several years, but I think this is, been one of the most difficult.
The other difference is you have to find 2.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you only cut it down to 1.
We would still need one.
Yeah, find one.
Yeah, and I guess my concern is I'm just concerned about the time frame. We're already looking at March 1st, Friday. When does this have to be done
Right.
before the annual election? That's my only concern. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just thinking it's
Okay.
already the end of February. I mean, it's March. That's this weekend.
Right.
Is that
I
gonna
mean,
be too
all of a
soon?
sudden,
By the time we get Aaron involved and approve it, and redistrict and or the other, I think going from the 8 to 7 is a great idea. I'm not sure about the at-large
okay,
piece of the puzzle. That's like another piece of the puzzle I haven't really thought about a lot. I remember seeing the options that Aaron gave us and just thinking to myself, redistricting just makes the most simple solution, but that doesn't always mean it's right.
okay. How about you, Ryan?
I guess my thoughts on it are whenever we approved that bylaw change, in my head, it was always just going down to 7 districts. So I never even really considered the at-large when we approved that. So
Okay.
that's just always where mine's been is,
Maybe we need to reread the change and say 7 districts or.
I don't know, but that's always in my mind is that's what I thought.
So the way that went, and I'll find that stupid memo, but you guys tasked us to what are all the options as we want to get down to an odd number, is actually what the thought was. So we spent money and time.
Sure.
And quite a bit of effort to go through and find out, here's the different options. And we talked about the at-large for quite a while, and you guys made a decision that wasn't the direction you wanted to go, and that's why you made the change to the bylaws.
That's what I mean, we may even incorporate that, so maybe it's a done deal. And Clay, I would ask,
About that.
yeah. Clay, what's your thoughts?
No, I'm seeing everybody's point here on this, but I think it needs to be open as an option to be discussed. That's as far as the 4 districts and the 3 at large. So I think it just needs to be kept open. You know, people need to have an open mind on what we need to do. I see, when Brett talked about the amount of time and money that was spent, I understand that. That's something that needs to be considered too with all this.
All right, thanks, Clay. Anybody have anything else? And I know we haven't really defined a decision, but we'll look at a couple things.
I'll see if I can't find that
Okay.
memo,
Maybe
and
shoot it back out.
I'll also look at I'm almost positive in the governance, good governance best practices, this is addressed. I don't remember what it says,
Okay.
but
We good? And Dale, we'll see what we can do to help you out.
Well, Mike gave me names, so not, like I said, I got another one, so thank God I got an extra day in February.
There you go. Got that extra with you. All right, Brett, you're gonna talk a little bit more about fiber project?
Oh, yeah. Is anyone, you guys, you folks that are online, you guys don't have a screen anyway, am I correct? Yeah, I don't think they do, right? They're just called in, so I don't have to share it. Suzanne, you can't see the screen, right? Or Clay?
No, I can.
Okay,
No, I
it just
cannot.
makes it simpler if I don't share. Okay, well, I'm going to go through everything that's on the slide, so you won't miss anything here, but worry about sharing it. All right, so a couple things to update on the fiber project. As I said before, one, we did get the executed MOU with SEI Communications as part of the plan that we did. You guys all approved all that stuff. So an MOU is essentially a non-binding agreement, right? So the big agreement is going to be the definitive agreement, which is we signed the MOU so that we are both in the right direction, both kind of agree going into the definitive agreement as to what would be put in it. So the biggest thing to say is we got that signed, it's executed from SEI.
Engaged, still planning the wedding.
We're engaged, we're still planning the wedding, but you can always call it wedding. So we got to get the definitive agreement done. I'll talk about that here in a minute. So we did submit our next level applications. So there are 6 applications. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. Those were due, that was due on February 9th. The team that we met with to do all of our grant writing and strategy, we actually had it's amazing to see, and I don't know if anyone's been involved in grant writing, but if you name a file wrong, they could throw your whole thing out, right? And so literally you have to go through and do this quality control and go through and make sure everything's spelled correctly, make sure all the latest files are updated. So it was neat to see all that go through, and kind of at the end of the 9th, we were all sort of celebrating that we got our applications in. So a huge milestone. Second, I just talked about, so as of yesterday, we submitted a news release. I wouldn't be too surprised if in the next couple of days it isn't on the front page of the paper, or you'll hear it on the radios. It is on Facebook, our news release, if you want to see it. Word for word, it was something that we put together in coordination with SCI.
The news release basically covers our partnership, that we've applied for these grants and the ARPA funds that the county commissioners have allocated funds to us. So that was all in there. Again, the other thing is the magazine. So Brett's Bugs talks about pretty much the same thing as the press release, and it will hit doors the next week. Actually, it's about a week and a half. So all the news is kind of going to be hitting at the same time. We've prepped. We've had all employee meeting, was it yesterday morning, to prep all employees with kind of here's what we're doing and why, and to field questions because I know since we put this out on Facebook, I've received probably 20 messages, just from actually really, really supportive. There was nothing that I heard was actually why you get, it was more of how quickly can you get this done type work. So anyways, I will send tonight, actually, when I get done here, I will send you the actual news release. And then you've already seen this document, but we do have a document that talks about like why, like when you're talking to public, why does it make sense for us to do this, right? As far as submitting for these applicants. So I'll send that all to you. I'd suggest reading it and making sure that we're all on the same page as far as what we're telling people. So to go in a little bit, what happened? And I know this is kind of hard to see, but the different colors are not our districts. The different colors are the 6 applications that we submitted. So the whole idea of an application is you only apply for $5 million. That's the max you can apply for grant funding. So it's a match, right? Or however you want to write it. But essentially, we tried to group, we strategized against like what areas do we want to apply for, maximizing the amount of addresses that you go through, right? Because 500 is like where you get the scoring for, and then making sure that we stayed underneath that $5 million. So that's how we came up with 6. The red line is the backbone that's developed, and then the blue line would be SCI's backbone to get into ours. You can see the project area, and I will put these on your iPad after tonight too, so you have it. The CapEx, that's the estimated CapEx, the grants that we wrote. If you guys remember, you made a motion to approve no less than 50% grants. In other words, if it's a $2 million area, we're going to get $1 million. We have to pay for $1 million. So you can tell there are 3 grants that 3 of the 6 we had to write at 60% in order for us to meet the business case based upon just the cost to do this. So you can see the eligible members there and then the total grant, total estimate. You're probably asking what that $50 million, that's above 42.5 last estimate we had on this project. The reason is because you have to design this network like you're going to be awarded any one of 6 of these, right? So our original project, and if we got grants for all this, it's going to be $42 million per feasibility study. Because we had to do 6 individual applications, you have to make sure that you can get to all 6 of those with a backbone.
So for example, if you only get awarded area 4, which is the purple in the top left, you got to build a lot of backbone to get there. Mm-hmm. So it's going to cost more to get to that one. So that's why that one's higher.
So there's a lot more backbone built into this new model than what we have in our original feasibility because of that. We know that we're not going to be awarded, all these in separate, we're either going to get 1, 3, or 6, and then hopefully get the rest in BEAD. So it's hard to tell you exactly what the cost is because it all depends on what they award. It's hard to tell you when this is going to be built because it depends on what they award. The answer is different depending on what area they award. In general, though, next level funds do have to be built out in 2 years. So if you're being asked if something is awarded, how long does it take you to build out to that? The answer is we have 2 years to do it. That's the stipulations in the actual grant.
That's from the time you sign.
It's from the time you sign, correct? Saying I'm going to take the grant.
At what point do you sign? I mean, when they award you.
We'll know June 5th, which I'm going to go through here in a minute. June 5th is when they're going to make the award announcement. We'll have to make a decision within a month. Are we going to accept that or not, right? But they're not going to come back with less than the grants percentages that are on there. You guys already made the motion. We're going to build what we get granted for. So essentially, I can't imagine a scenario where we would come back and do anything. If we're awarded, we're going to plan to build that area as a phased approach, just like we've been talking about, which is the only way you're going to be able to do it appropriately because of the way BEAD and Next Level are lining up. So then next, what we just talked about, Next Level award, we'll know supposedly. This is scheduled for June 5th. You guys know how these work, right? It may or may not be known in June 5th, but that's the date they're shooting for. We've applied for 6. No application could require more than $5 million in grants. Project cost was increased, adding what me and Matt were just talking about. We had to add backbone for each individual area. We know that most likely you won't have to build all that backbone, but if you would, worst case, get those areas up by, like down in Westport and then up north from there, you got a lot of backbone to build just to get there. So we took in worst case scenario, which is a good thing because it's all built into the grants. I was going to show, and I just remembered that I cannot, because of confidentiality with our grant writers, I signed a paper that said would keep the cost of grant writing confidential. I would like to go over that when we get into executive session. But we did negotiate on the price for the grant writing, and it's negotiated on a pay for performance. In other words, you pay something small at the beginning, and if we get the award, then you pay the bigger side of it on the back half. I'll go over those costs once we get into executive session. I had to remove it because I completely forgot that we're in open session. So next steps, a project or a grant cycle called Reconnect 5 is coming up. It's a grant or a loan application. We'll have to decide which one we want to go after here. Even if it's a loan standpoint, there's no way you're going to get money less than 2%. So I think we are going to want to apply for Reconnect 5, but it might be at the loan level. Anyway, that application's coming up. Bring you guys that information as it comes closer. If we're strategizing now, does that make sense to do or not? Next is BEAD. That's $868 million in grants for the state of Indiana. The challenge process it's in process right now. April 3rd is the close on the challenge process. So nothing's going to happen until after April 3rd. My guess is the BEAD program probably won't open until close to the end of the year. That's my guess. They really haven't come out and said. The only date that we necessarily have is April 3rd is when they'll close the challenge process. So you can probably figure they got 2 or 3 months in there of figuring out their maps from the challenge process. Maybe Q4, they'll open up the project or the application. So,
What do you mean by the challenge process?
so right now you can challenge addresses. If you get onto the BEAD, the Indiana Broadband Office, they have a map in there. And that map will show the addresses that are available for BEAD dollars. I can tell you right now, there is a local provider that has addresses all over the place that say, and they're serving that we know for a fact, because we've got employees in those houses, they don't serve at the level that you have to serve, which is the 100 by 20, right? So there's a challenge process where if you can prove that, you can challenge it in the state's website and they'll look at it. And if you have the data that proves that, then they will make that address underserved where you can apply for grants. But the challenge process can be tricky because, going into Next Level, we thought that challenge process could really hurt us. In other words, there was a lot of addresses on there and we thought, well, what happens when somebody comes in and says they serve these addresses and then we get the maps back and there's nothing on there left. Well, it actually went the opposite way for Next Level. We don't know for BEAD. So we are working right now on looking at they just updated all the maps for BEAD when they opened this challenge process, which was literally just a couple of days ago. So we'll have till April 3rd to look at that and see we can participate in the challenge process, which originally we were told we couldn't because we're not an ISP. But we have learned now that we can. We've actually got a way to get into the system. They have given us a password. We are a nonprofit. Originally, we were said that even though you're nonprofit, you guys can't challenge, but we can. So did I answer your question? Next other step is a definitive agreement. Again, we have our marriage, we have our save the date, but we got to get the definitive agreement done, which I don't think we'll have any problems with. It's just going to take some time to sit down. And then also we've talked about the staffing plan. So if you look at our original feasibility study, we're obviously adding some heads, but if you only get, let's just say we only get 2 of these areas. If we get 2 of these approved, you're not going to have to hire all the heads that we have in the business case, right? So we are now looking at when would you have to hire depending on what you get awarded and what are those positions look like. So we're working on that right now. Questions as far as fiber and kind of where we're at?
The BEAD's 868 is the next level, is it a defined amount of money?
80 million for Indiana.
And then secondly, our applications went in, it's almost, I guess it'd be 3 weeks ago this Friday.
February 9th, yeah.
Have they received them? Do we know? Has there been
Any feedback today, actually.
any feedback that indicates?
Yeah, so 2 things. Number one, as soon as we sent those, Sam was on the phone with Okra to make sure they received them without any glitches. And they got back to us the same night, said, yes, we've received these, no glitches. What they do is the first couple of weeks they review them all. And it's just a really high level. I think they use AI actually. And they review them and say, hey, here's some things you need to fix, right? So we did get an email and there was probably 10 items on there. Yeah,
There was
none of them were, it was more or less, you didn't have this ID code in there. None of it's like beneficial to understand what they think about our application.
Deal breakers.
No deal breaker.
One of them, 2 of them had a duplicate address.
Yeah. Worst case, the way I read it was,
Take out 2 addresses.
we're going to take those 2 addresses out if you don't fix them because they're duplicate. We'll take them both out if you don't fix the duplicates. So yeah, we're working on that. Actually, we're utilizing our grant writing resources to help us answer.
Bottom line is we have verification that our grant applications are in the hopper.
Absolutely. We got that on February 9th. That is one neat thing is with the
Like
state.
today, getting back questions that
They're
means
actually-
we're still in the hopper.
Yes.
We didn't get kicked out already.
And I do, it is, I like the fact that the federal government has put this into the state hands because even though it still is at the state level, it's way more. I mean, literally we have a phone number and a guy to call at the broadband office and at Okra. So Okra is who's running the next level and then the Indiana broadband office. We've been up there a few times to meet with that guy. That makes this way more helpful when you have person that you can go to. So we'll see. I don't know. I felt really good. I don't think we're going to get all 6, obviously, in next level, but I don't know. We all got bets on what we think internally.
Yes. Reconnect 5 as far as the loan number there. What max, is there a max? I'm assuming there's a max number we can borrow or?
There is, and I don't know exactly, Steve, what that is. We haven't got into a lot of the requirements because I'm not even real sure right now. I think the way this works is you can pick between grant and loan, but I'm not positive. Those are the details we're trying to get into now. So remember, we're utilizing an external resource, our grant writing folks, to strategize on how we do all this. Those folks got to get situated with Reconnect 5 because a lot of this language in some of these things, none of us are going to understand, right? So we've sent this all over to them to get some of these answers, but I don't know what amount. I mean, I know what we can borrow up to from a standpoint of what's approved in from our standpoint right now, which isn't the total amount. I don't know what this grant would do. I imagine there's a limit for sure, but I bet it's a pretty big number. I wouldn't be surprised if it's $20 million. by any stretch.
So that would possibly be something then that with next level, we get approved for one or two areas or whatever. We would use this to kind of fill the gap. Would it be funds that would be available so that we could use that right away until BEAD comes in? You're saying BEAD's not going to be till the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. I think the way Reconnect 5 works is you build it and then you get the money.
Oh.
And so the timing probably, I mean, my guess is, and they, I don't, we
That's how
don't,
next level is too.
yeah,
I mean, I think all of them are, you build it, then you pay it.
just like our electric business, right? We can't borrow on anything that we don't have in the ground.
So will BEAD have an application process? Just like, I mean, it's a complete separate application.
It's ran through, so next level is run through Okra at the state, which is a completely different department of the state. The Indiana Broadband Office, which is under kind of the IT of the Indiana government, is running BEAD. So there are two complete departments. Now, what we understand, and again, this is just from what we've heard, is as soon, they're going to want to get this next level, this $80 million out quick. Because what's going to happen is they're going to get rid of the Okra folks that are dealing with next level, essentially, right? And put those into the Indiana. Some of the same folks are going to work on the Indiana Broadband Office, which is going to be the BEAD. So
So is MD 68 federal? Is that federal money?
oh yeah, that's part of this.
That's all federal, right? Right, that's all part of the federal distributed to the state.
Yeah, that's part of, I think, the infrastructure, part of building back better.
It's the 42 billion, and that's our Indiana's cut of the 42 billion. It's a lot of money. I mean, when you guys were talking earlier and John was talking too, you know, we've been to a lot of conferences on this broadband stuff, and they're saying this isn't a once of a lifetime pot of money. This is a once, they're never going to put this type of money to it. It's going to be hard for the federal government to say, here's $42 billion to fix this problem. And it doesn't get fixed and they have to go with more. I mean, it's not going to happen. I can tell you that. There may be some middle mile grants for $1 million here, $1 million there, but nothing like this amount. What else? Anything else?
All right, thank you. We'll go on to the next item. Brian, nothing? Next month. I thought you said that last week. I thought you said that last.
It's gonna be a good one.
All right.
Save it.
Jason, you got an update regarding Hoosier?
Yeah, we had a meeting on February the 12th. There were no official action items taken, but I did want to report that Holtec, who is basically the operating entity of the nuclear facility Palisades that we're involved in Michigan, was approved for a $1.5 billion loan from DOE. So that was a big milestone hurdle to get through. So that's been approved. There has been no formal public announcement on it yet, just for some political deal in Washington. They're trying to figure that out. But anyway, they are going to get the funding for the project. So that was good news. We have 2 meetings coming up in March, Finance and Audit Committee and a regular board meeting. Then the annual meeting, as you all know, will be in April.
April, yeah.
April 3rd.
4th.
And that's it for now.
All right, thank you. And as far as IEC goes, I think John alluded to most of the comments that I were going to make regarding the facilities and a couple of the dates regarding the director's retreat. You should have all received an email on that, I believe, on the retreat. You guys remember seeing that?
Awesome.
possibly.
Possibly, I've seen so many of them that, certainly like everyone to consider that as an option. I know that there'll be a CCD course along with a VLC course offered on that Friday. And I think we're all looking forward to the completion of the new building. And again, he mentioned the 28th as kind of a ribbon cutting for opening that. So that's really all that I have. Anybody do any training or attend any conferences this past month? No? Unless we have anything else, we'll adjourn the open, motion to adjourn the open meeting, and we will head into executive session for a brief time.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, Mike.
So we will go into executive in a minute.
You know what I didn't do? I don't know. Skip that on next one. Project.
Moral, thanks.
Oh, yeah.